Again, a book by Brother Wayne Jackson. Actually, yeah. Brother Wayne Jackson has done a great job with this. And so we're going to just look at two aspects of Christ being the master teacher. We're going to look at the non-moral traits and then the moral traits. The non-moral traits and then the moral traits. But as we look in this book, and again, I know everybody doesn't have it, but as we look at the book, chapter number 3, the fullness of deity, which is the main theme of chapter number 3, we're speaking reference to Christ and how he qualifies as a master teacher because of he, in fact, is God. He is in every shape, fashion, or form God, just like God the Father, just like God the Holy Spirit. So that is drawn out here. So tonight we'll just make this simple. We'll look at the non-moral attributes of God or Christ, and then the moral attributes of Christ. Okay, so one attribute of God is that of, and this one always just fascinates me. I'm always just completely in awe of our God when we look at his attributes. And that attribute of eternality. We first see this in Exodus chapter number 3, verse number 6. Remember there where Moses is speaking to God out of the bush that is burning but is not being consumed? And he says, the people are going to ask me, what is your name? What name should I tell them? And he simply uses the formula for eternality, as Brother Jackson makes the observation. I am. I am. So I have always just been in awe when I think of this attribute of God. And all, by the way, all of God's attributes are amazing, okay? Because our God is awesome, isn't he? And he's amazing. And this attribute of God of eternality, when you think of that phrase, eternality, what comes to mind? Eternality, eternal. Okay, but but by definition of the word, right?
Always was, is, and will be.
Yes. Think about that, okay? Now, let's just take the Bible, the age of the earth universe, no more than 10,000 years old. So that is from our perspective, right? That's from us. God measured time for our sake, not his. Suppose with me that before the Godhead decided to even create this earth universe, remember in eternity, and I just, for understanding, I use this phrase, eternity past, okay? I know eternity doesn't have a past, but for the sake of this, looking back before God created everything. So we're here 10,000 years, by we, humanity, the earth. How long in eternity past was it before they even decided that they were going to create us? Now, we don't know the answer to that. Only God knows, okay? But we don't, I mean, for all we know, it could have been 1,000,000 years, couldn't it? For all we know, it could have been 50,000 years. And then the aspect of eternality, as we look at something is eternal. So it has no beginning and it has no end. How does that not make you in awe when you think of this attribute of God? Eternality, eternal, always existing one. He doesn't tire, therefore he doesn't sleep. He doesn't rest. Now I know the Bible says God rests on the Sabbath day, but we know what that means. He just stopped his creative activity. He is, so even while we're asleep, as the psalmist said, so while we get our sweet sleep, God is what? Ever watching over us. The eternality. So we have relatives that have lived. Some of us have relatives that have lived to be 100 years old. And we are amazed by that. And rightfully so. But that 100 years to eternity is not what? One man put it this way. It's like one pebble that's on the sand. that's at the seashore, right? One little small 100 years. Now you think about that, okay? So eternality, the next life that we live, never ending. But because we have a God who is eternal. Again, I just cannot ever cease to not be amazed by the fact of God being eternal. So God had no beginning. He is eternal in essence. Romans 16:26, Deuteronomy 33:27, Psalm 19. I actually have Romans 16:26 right here. Look what the Bible says here, Romans 16:26. But now made manifest and by the prophetic scriptures made known to all nations according to the commandment of the everlasting God for the obedience to the faith. See, these other false religions, like there's no such thing as Allah, but that's what Islam has. There's no eternality with him. And then you have these other world religions, whether it be Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism. Those are false, fake gods. But our God is eternal. And he has, in a sense, with our souls that he's created, once our soul comes into existence, it can never not be in existence, so it will live on. So when we leave this life to the next life, it is just never ending. And have you ever had dreams about eternity? I have. I've had them since I was a child. And I remember as a child when I had them, and they frightened me. Because just the aspect of it's never ending. What's that like? Something that is never ending. But now as we grow older, it doesn't frighten us anymore, does it? But we look forward to any comments and questions? Yes, sir.
Like when you were growing up, you see your parents and older friends, and wow, they're old.
Yeah.
And then when you grow up,
Yeah.
it's impossible to even understand.
It is. It is. So that's just a great aspect of God. So the non-attribute, John 8:58, was born means came into existence, while I am indicates the eternality of being. So just like in Exodus 3:6, Christ here having a conversation, okay, before Abraham was, I am, right? Again, the self-existing one. God is the only one that is self-existing. God is the only one that is eternal. A lot of times we get asked as preachers, well, what about Satan? Is Satan eternal? Is Satan an eternal being? No, he is not. The only one that is an eternal being is God. The second trait of God, of course, is that of his omnipresence. Now, what have people falsely maybe believed about the omnipresence of God? Or maybe not quite understood. Because by definition, what does I'm sorry, please forgive me. By definition, what does omnipresence mean? Okay. I can say that again? Okay, is God everywhere? Now think about that now, because we're talking omnipresent. Is God everywhere right now?
Not everywhere, but that's what we think.
Okay.
That's that misconception.
Yeah, yes.
But that's what I was
Yes.
gonna ask.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that God is not
Right.
is,
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Sister Jones. You were saying too? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I have to get, what I or accept is, we've read scriptures where, I can't escape him.
No, we can't.
I go down, like, can't think of it, when you go down to the deep sea, he's there. You go up wherever, anywhere on the earth, he's there.
Yes. So you are referencing Psalm 139. And so let's just briefly turn. Now, brother, again, I don't want to, trust me, I am not trying to say something controversial. I'm not. But just understanding, like some have said, well, is omnipresence, as Brother Jackson points this out, maybe not in this book, but also on Apologetics Press. God has the ability to be everywhere, okay? And we're talking instantaneously. But in other words, nothing escapes him, okay? Nothing escapes him. So like in Psalm 139, just to get to your point, let's go to, okay, verse number 7. Would somebody like to read it? Or I can read it. Psalm 139, look at verse 7. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? This is the omnipresence of God. If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be a light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day, and the darkness and the light are both alike unto you. So, yes, we cannot escape God. Okay, God has the ability to be omnipresent at his choosing. He can be anywhere at any time, but God will not be in hell, right? so we know that. So he won't be in those places. But yeah, we cannot escape him. So Matthew 28:20, he promises to be with his disciples, and that will be by application in church. Universally, when we partake of the Lord's Supper on Sunday, do we even contemplate that or think about that sometimes? And that God's with us. But remember, he's always with us, though, as children of God. So he's eternal, he's omnipresent, and then he's omniscient. What does omniscient mean? Again, all-knowing. So there's nothing God can learn. There's nothing that he needs to learn. Okay, so omniscience is likewise quality of deity. All things are open to the knowledge of our Creator. Christ at times limited, he did, in his earthly ministry, in his physical temple. He limited his range of knowledge during his earthly sojourn. The Samaritan woman at Jacob's well and Judas' treachery are examples of that. So the omniscience of God, which is so striking, because we got some people who think they can what? Yeah, outguess God, outsmart God, outthink God. Do we, maybe as Christians, do we know if maybe we have done that, or do we know people who think that they know a little bit more than God?
Think they're so great, they don't have to even answer to God.
Well, that's just arrogance, yes. Like on certain Bible topics and subjects, people think that they have more grace than God has. Surely God wouldn't want me to be what? Unhappy. God would not want me to be lonely. God would not want me to, especially on the marriage, divorce, or remarriage subject. So people have reason, you know what, maybe God don't know it all. Or now we don't directly come out and say that, but we imply it. But God, the omniscient God, his non-moral traits. So he's eternal, he's omnipresent, he's omniscient. Yes, sir, Mr. Patrick. Right, exactly. And now people are being taken away by AI, aren't they? AI is becoming people's God, small g. And we are just in the initial phases of AI. Yes, ma'am, Sis John.
I was gonna say, that's why we have so many books now. Because everyone now is trying to give us of what they think that God knows. So
Right.
they know more, so
Right.
they can help us understand what God is trying to tell us.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, ma'am, Crystal.
So you just bring up AI. Are you seeing that churches or just kind of so-called religious people are using AI to
Yeah. Great. Right. Good. Right. 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 Excellent question. So I'll replay her question. So I didn't invoke AI. So Chris was asking, am I stating that not only people in the world are using AI, but are Christians, and then in particular, even members of the church? The answer to all those is yes. We have some, I know, because they tell me. So if you go on the internet, some denominational preachers will tell you that AI has helped them craft up their sermons. So they are going to AI. Now, we can use a search engine as preachers, and there are various different Bible programs out there that we can use to help us to do a faster search to find things in the Bible. But they have AI actually writing, crafting up their sermon for them. That's dangerous. Now, we can use it in a constructive way, but it's not crafting up my sermon. And remember, AI is only as good as what? The information that's been given to it. So they're gonna, like, if you guys want to, you can just do AI search on Church of Christ and watch what they come up with. And they're gonna come up with that we were founded by Thomas and Alexander Campbell. Okay, so they're not even giving the truth on that. Okay, great question, great question. So Jesus is eternal. Okay, obviously. Jesus is well, God is omnipresent. God is omniscient. And then we have omnipotent, calm. Look how Jesus demonstrated this in his earthly ministry, right? Book of the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus is down in the bow of the ship. I always get those mixed up because I wasn't in the Navy, I was in the Air Force. But that part of the ship, Jesus is down in that. He's sound asleep, right? And the apostles are up top, and they are frightened because the sea was, now, how many of us have been actually to sea? Actually to sea, not just the river, but the sea, right? Have you been in the sea when it's been wind, when it's not been good, like weather like now? Have you been in the sea? On the sea, when you are out there on the ocean and there's no land in sight. Okay? And it's dark. So everything that was going wrong for them went wrong. So they were scared. Brother Jackson said it was a water spout that was on the sea. And a water spout is nothing but a hurricane on water, right? Or I'm sorry, a tornado on water, right? So here they are out there in the sea, and they are frightened. They say, "Wake up, Jesus," right? That's why we got the song, right? Peace be still. And Jesus simply gets up, and that's what he says, right? Peace be still. And as Wayne Jackson made the observation, there was a complete, immediate calm. Okay, guys, liken it till maybe later on, hopefully it won't happen, but maybe later on tonight or in the morning, if we get the weather that they're saying, and then all of a sudden, it's just a calm. See, that's God. That's God. The wind had no choice but to obey him anyway, didn't it? Okay, just like everything else, it has to obey him. I mean, that's power. When you have power over the weather, nature, that's power. It is unspeakable power. It is 695 feet below sea level, and the adjacent hills nearby rise to 2,000 feet above it, making it the upper Jordan regional like a funny. So he told the storm, "Be quiet," and it was. Turn plain water into the juice of the grape. We don't have to go over that because we know it was not alcohol. Healed a boy who was 16 miles away. Remember the centurion in Matthew chapter 8, right? Matthew chapter number 8. The centurion said, "I don't even need for you to even come to my city because I'm a man of authority too. All you got to do is just say the word and it'll be done," right? And it was, right? The power of Christ. Simply spoke life, re-entered the 4-day-old corpse of Lazarus. And I like how Brother Keeble commented on this. He had to call Lazarus because if he had said, "Come forth," everybody would have got up, because one day Jesus is going to do that, Brother Jerry. He's going to say, "Come forth." And all those that are in the grave that have been dead for 6,000 years, 2,000 years, 500 years, 50 years, everybody is going to get up. So Brother Keeble used to call it that great getting up day. And that's what it would be. Yes, sir. Yeah, everybody's getting up. See, that's power. That is power right there. Again. So Jesus, to recap, the non-moral traits pertaining to non-relationship circumstances. He is eternal. God is eternal. God is omnipresent. God is omniscient. God is omnipotent. Now, just by way of a quick excursion, you see these traits, right? And you see these in the last 50 years. You have these really the last 50 years here in America, but it's been around for over 2,000 years, with Greek mythology, and then with our modern day version of God, small g. You see something that man has adopted of God and to try to have with his superheroes? Yeah, they're trying to be a God. And so God is eternal, God is omnipresent, God is omniscient, God is omnipotent. So non-moral traits pertain to non-relational circumstances, moral traits having to do with his interaction with humanity. So the Bible overflows with affirmation of the holiness of God. I believe this congregation, a few years back, didn't you have a Wednesday, was it a summer series on the holiness of God? So really, you guys already know this one here. So what do we remember about the holiness of God? What do we remember about the holiness of God?
That is the one character that is in all of God.
Yeah. You said that's the one character, that is a characteristic, that's one of the attributes that we know that is of God, that God has impressed upon us, that we need to exhibit in our lives. Christ was holy in his earthly ministry, as we all know. Holy, separated unto God for reasonable service unto him. So, and we need to strive to be holy. We need to strive for that because God expects and demands it of us. Justice is the inherent nature of God. Jesus was not only just as to his own character, Acts 3:14, for instance. He treated others justly as well, and that is something that we were absolutely, like, we look at the master teacher of Jesus and the example that he has set for us, and how great it would be if we could also strive for justice. Because now you just say that word in our American society today, right? That's fighting words. That's going to trigger some people, because different people have different understandings, don't they, of what justice is. Some people say justice is what I say it is, or what I think it should be. But God, to say that God is just means that he always does that which is always the right thing to do, whether we agree or not. Is it just for God, or is God just if people go to hell? Is God just if people go to hell?
God, if they go to hell, that's on them.
Yeah.
God is just.
Yes.
Because we put ourselves in hell. God
Yeah.
has given us.
Well, and say that again, Ashley. Yeah. Right. Because there's a whole religion out there that teaches universalism, which says, no, God is too just to allow anyone to go to hell. Okay, but God always does just what's right. He ignored traditional Hebrew prejudice and taught a Samaritan woman the truth concerning his identity. John 4:9-27. And I love that attribute of God, that he's always going to do that which is holy. He's always going to do that which is just, and it's always going to be right. Sin must have a penalty associated with it, and that is universal. It transcends ethnicity. It transcends gender, it transcends culture, it transcends socio-economic status, it transcends educational level. Sin must be penalized. But God is just, so he's given us what? Mercy and grace. Patrick, what's your hand up, or are you? Okay. So another moral trait of God. God is a being of truth. Psalm 31:5. Jesus declared himself to be the depository of truth. John 14:6, where Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I'm the life. The Lord never taught or endorsed error. Now think about that. He never told a lie, ever. Now, we all wish we could say that, don't we? That we never told a lie.
Just told one.
Okay, Jerry.
I know you were.
Those lies that we told in the past, don't we regret telling them? Okay, but we told them because we've all experienced telling lies, right, Sister Jones? Yeah. Yes. Because when I was a little boy, my siblings And my cousins, because of my propensity of fibbing, they used to call me Story Boy. Because, and I don't know where it came from, I just lied for no reason. I don't know why. I just lied for the sake of lying. And so I'm so glad for God's grace and mercy. Okay? But Jesus, God, is always of truth, will always speak the truth, will never not speak the truth. We need to do the same thing, don't we? It might cost us, it might hurt us, but we need to speak the truth. So to scurry on, another prime attribute of God is that of his mercy. Again, thank God for his mercy. God is full of mercy and grace. Now, he doesn't overlook sin, does he? But he extends mercy. Didn't we see that in Jesus' earthly ministry? The great master teacher, that he extended. I mean, we could name numerous times when he extended mercy. And look at this. God, Jesus, extends mercy to us every day we get up, don't we? What's mercy again by definition? God withholding that which we truly deserve. Every day that we get up. Because do we deserve to get up every day? No, we don't. So God's grace is God giving us something that we didn't deserve, and his mercy is there. So we thank God for that. He is a God rich in mercy, Ephesians 2:5. Toward all those who seek salvation, God has made a way, Luke 1:72. And he taught his followers that we must be merciful just as God is. Do we like to practice mercy? Sister Jones says no. Yes, yeah, that's human nature, but we have to extend mercy unto others. So teaching was a very important profession in the nation of Israel, national Israel, and teachers were highly regarded, highly respected. Jesus as a teacher was known as the one who taught with authority and not as others of his day. That's Matthew 7, verse number 29, the Sermon on the Mount. Really, that's the conclusion, right, of the Sermon on the Mount. And he taught as one with authority and not as scribes. So there are three things that help to establish Jesus as a teacher. Number one, the people recognized him as a teacher and listened carefully to all he taught. Can you imagine being able there in the first century to actually see and hear Jesus teach? Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? But you know what? If we stay faithful unto death, one day in heaven, guess what we'll get to do? We'll get to talk with him and listen to him. Second, the gospel writers were all identified Jesus' ministry as one of teaching. Mark gives the following references in Mark 4, 1-2, 6-2, 6, 8:31, 9:31, and 12:35. Third clue was the fact that his followers were described as pupils. The term disciples means student, it means follower, it means learner. So again, Jesus, the great master teacher. And brethren, we are at the end of this. And some said that they didn't get the questions. Is that correct? Nobody got the questions? Okay, well, I will leave that to Richard then. It's for him to go over the.
We can answer them in
Well,
Passes them out once we're done.
right.
Wants us to pay attention.
I understand. I will leave that to him to go over, Lord willing, when he comes back, because we do want to keep what we're talking about, of getting us out of here. But any comments, brethren, any questions on chapter number 3 with reference to the eternality of God, the omnipotence of God, the omnipresence of God, the omnipotence of God? He's being God of just holiness, mercy, just. Any comments, questions, any thoughts you want to have? Anybody? Well, again, I will send Richard a text to let him know that I did not go over the questions, so I will leave that for him. But thank you. You guys have been a good class tonight. Again, hopefully you didn't get the impression that I was